What's up, everyone? Finally back with these two beautiful people here for another real review. And of course, I am Matt, being joined by the illustrious Jeff Alterman. I don't know why I said Jeff. And the lovely Paige Forbetti, the Boston badass herself. We're back. I get to do a review with these folks because for once we have all seen the movie before it comes out. So this is like a once-in-a-year occurrence for us. But how's that? Before we get started, how's everyone doing?
Great, fabulous. I'm so happy to see you guys' lovely faces on screen. We have a great group chat, but it's always so nice to see you guys in person. So
yes, especially a skinny Jeff. We love skinny Jeff.
I know, looking fly. He even got a sweatshirt on with his own faces on it. That's even cooler.
Look at that. If you want to know which one is me, it's the one that says my name on it.
But we're not here to talk about ourselves or skinny Jeff. We are here to talk to you about the latest Miyazaki film, and that is The Boy and the Heron. Now, full disclaimer, Paige and I have a slightly different view on this movie than Jeff, because we both saw the subtitled version of this. So when it comes to speaking on the American voice character and voice talent, we're going to defer to Jeff on that, because we know a lot of people, while people do like and appreciate the subtitle version of these anime films, some people do want to know how the American voice cast is, especially when you have a cast that features Florence Pugh, Christian Bale, Gemma Chan, and a slew of others. So
most importantly, Robert Pattinson. We'll get to that. I don't know what your guys' experience levels may be with anime, since the whole like cultural context with it has it as somewhat more impenetrable type of animated style for some people in the US. I think that anime is great. There's a lot of anime that I have watched. There's a lot of big ones I haven't, but I feel as though I think I may be a little more in tune with it than either of you, at least as far as I've watched in my life.
I can be honest and say the only animes I've watched in my life were the first 9 seasons of Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh, and there's one other one that's Dragon Ball, the whole Dragon Ball series, and the Miyazaki films that I like and own. One of my favorite films of all time is Kiki's Delivery Service. It was the first Miyazaki film I ever saw, and I have the Blu-ray on my my bookcase over there. Rest in peace, Phil Hartman. But
for myself, I will admit I'm not very diverse in the anime field. What I can say though is I highly respect Miyazaki's like body of work and what he's able to put forth within the messages he's able to put forth within his films, and I feel as they can be seen through a wide range of audiences. A lot of people think animation is for children, but what he's
David Zaslav.
But what he's able to put forth through his anime are very mature and real life themes that he's put forth for everyone to enjoy, and that's why I think he's a highly regarded director in this field for that.
He's very much like the kind of films he makes for the most part over the years are essentially like, the best way to describe it to people who don't really watch anime is he attacks the children's, like especially coming of age type films and these animated films that can be directed at kids. He attacks them similar to like Pixar had with their best works, where these are not films that are designed just for children. These are something that should be able to hit everyone at any age because of the universality of the themes that he evokes. I would like to say, as a bigger fan of anime than either of you, I am very much a subs not dubs guy. This is a subs not dubs household. The tickets that I bought for this early IMAX screening were supposed to be for the Japanese language with English subtitle version. And I went with Paulina to go see it, and she wanted to see it so badly in the English dub, specifically because you know, everyone heard that trailer, everyone heard the voice of the heron, and they were like, I have to see if Robert Pattinson is going to commit to the bit here. And when the movie started and it started speaking in English, we both looked at each other immediately. We're like, no, it's in English.
I am not in the right movie.
See,
and yeah.
funny enough, that was the exact opposite reaction in my theater, and I saw it so my screening was at the Cleveland Institute of Art in what they call Cinematheque. So I essentially saw it in an art house school theater. So like everybody's just I'm around art students, so I knew I'm in the right crowd to see this, and I'm just like, oh, everyone's looking around. Oh, we're getting the subbed one, all right. And I heard a few groans, and I'm just over here like, I'm here for it.
Okay.
I'm just.
I mean, that's so funny. An art house type one, of course, they're going to show it in the native language. I mean, that feels like a no brainer.
Yeah, from my stature, from my stature, I saw it at the New York Film Festival. So of course, I was surrounded with a lot of like-minded colleagues that are there for the original version. Not that this film is intended for, but the original language that this film presents and that culture that it holds within it. So that was really nice to at least be surrounded by like-minded people. That a lot of people going into this film that I saw it with were like anticipating this film so highly. So seeing this back in September was a very high praise, honor that, oh my God, we get to see Miyazaki's next film with a bunch of film critics that love his work. So that was a really cool experience to see.
Yeah, that is really cool. I mean, Miyazaki is one of the great masters of film currently living and ever. One of the single greatest animated film makers of all time. I think probably he is the greatest animated filmmaker of all time. We have incredible classics. Almost every single one of his film is in some way a classic. I think to at least a generation or more, from Totoro, even all the way back to Castle of Cagliostro, the creation of Lupin III. And then you have Totoro and Porco Rosso and Princess Mononoke. I remember watching Princess Mononoke on a VHS that my grandfather had taped for me one time, and I was too young for the violence at the beginning of that movie. It scared me. And I mean, Spirited Away is one of the greatest animated achievements of all time. And I do think, very funny enough, that this film evokes Spirited Away, I think, more than many of his other works. It feels very much like the trippy, dark violence of Princess Mononoke within the construct of a Spirited Away type story.
Yep, I think that's definitely a great comparison in a sense. To me, I think all of his work is captivating. The Boy and the Heron is a very captivating film. I cannot talk to it. I do wish, Jeff, you might be able to answer me on this one, because this film is adapted from a body of work. Do you know the name? Because I remember talking to someone about it. Do you remember
the movie itself is not adapted. It's inspired by a book.
Yes. Do you know the name of the book?
The title, at least, but I actually have the page up right here. It's based. The Japanese title refers to the name of a book called "How Do You Live," which is what the original title was going to be.
And I will say, I wish this film was titled that instead of "The Boy and the Heron," because I feel like this title, to me at least a little bit, is very subjective, because the movie is not really about the boy and the heron. It's more about this boy's journey.
It is very much. It's very much a story of grief and loss, and it's a coming of age story. And it's this idea, to compare it, to bring it back to the Spirited Away comparison. It's a story of a young kid who, through some significant event, finds himself going down the rabbit hole into this fantasy realm where they have to tackle these complex emotions to be able to come out of it feeling more matured and ready to kind of move forward with their life in a way that they weren't able to before they approached this fantastical world. So it's very much an Alice in Wonderland type.
Yeah, it's more so alternate reality. Like it's alternate dimension, because it's a world just below our world.
Yeah, it's
sharing this space.
Yeah, it's very much a fantastical type of approach to that, which is very cool.
So I'll say this during my screening, before we got to see the actual movie, because I do want to touch on this next part in detail. They played an interview with the composer of the film, and
the music
I have to say something about that.
And he talked about how this is his fifth, I think. He's worked with Miyazaki before, and this was the first time he's ever worked on a film where the film was done. Like he's like Miyazaki's like, here's the film, you have full control, I trust you, put music in where you think it needs to go in, and that's it. And then they watched it, and Miyazaki was like, okay, we're good, that's it.
I think that's where this film thrives the most.
It's incredible
through his score. And to me, I mean, we'll kind of get into my thoughts of what I feel overall of the film, but I will say that ultimately, like, the score elevates the emotional beats so much more, and they feel so much like powerful from this score. And that, to me, that's like my biggest praise on this film, is that the score is phenomenal.
Yeah. I think, and this isn't a way that it feels like a random title to bring up, but the quality of the score is, to me, to how it boosts the film. The film itself, I think, is great, but I think the score helps elevate it to an even higher point in a way that reminds me of how I feel about the score for like Man of Steel, where I mean, Man of Steel, I'm not a big fan of the movie as a whole, but I think the score is like an all-timer, and it really elevates a lot of what goes on there. You feel more invested in everything because of how the music is trying to make you feel. And sure, a lot of people may say that's manipulative. Exactly.
That's part of film. I mean, if you want to use good film, good score, perfect example is Social Network and Atticus Ross's work on that. Where
Trent Reznor, Atticus Ross on it,
where the film itself is still good, but that score just elevates it to another level. And that's what you get here.
Yes,
I really dug this, and I know, Jeff, I know we'll talk about the voice casting a little bit. I'll say this, like I said, gave you the full disclaimer. So a lot of Miyazaki films, where they take place is kind of ambiguous. This one, I actually enjoyed it more seeing it in subtitles, knowing it takes place in Japan during World War II. So knowing that when the time period came up, and I was able to dive into it more and just go along with the ride of the voice cast more. Now, something I do want to say, because I have seen the English trailer, Robert Pattinson essentially just does an English, like a straight up English version of what the heron sounds like in Japanese.
Yes, I completely agree with that. It literally, the comparisons are very hand in hand. Like, he obviously must have saw the original take on the film firsthand and was like, all right, I'll do that, but in English. Because it doesn't even, in the trailer, I'm like, is that really Robert Pattinson? It doesn't even like sound like it's actually him.
Having watched the trailer again, following seeing the film, I'm like, I would have really just thought I just listened to the Japanese voice actor speak the exact same line in English just based off of it. And
and that kind of like what you just said, though, Matt, too, about kind of like the setting of this film. I feel like it immerses you into like a real world type thing.
Yeah.
That you can feel more connected, because this was like an actual, not that this story is an actual thing that happened, but being in Japan during World War II, like the setting that it took place makes the overall film itself have that more emotional connection, I guess, in a sense, with the audience, because it is from a
semi-historical, I guess.
Yes, a historical moment in time.
Where a kid is going through losing his mom, living through a war, and having to accept that his aunt is now his stepmom.
So I think that the yeah, it's a very weird, complex sort of situation he's in. It's about how is he going to be able to navigate, and also it's that thing of there are all these big things that are happening. He's a young kid, and it's how is he going to be able to be absorb it and live with this as this is his life now when he's can't get past, you know, what happened with his mom, which you shouldn't just be able to move past that, but it's more of a he's not able to embrace it that it happened emotionally speaking. He's stuck in this bit of arrested development at this age, and he can't grow until he's able to come to terms with that grief that he has. The titular idea of how do you live for others when you are so caught up in your own selfish obsession with being traumatized, which goes past just, you know, dealing with trauma. It's this idea of how can you find it within yourself to come to terms with that trauma and deal with it in order to help other people in your life.
Exactly. But for me, the thing where the film falls flat for me is that a lot of Miyazaki's films have like similar messages and themes that they're like trying to like hit. And to me, with this one, when this film was being made, we were all told that this was going to be his last film. So it already had such a high remark that we were like, oh my God, this has to be like, this is going to be his legacy. So, and now knowing that this is not his last film anymore, you kind of go out of it. Like, for me, in a sense, I was like, I don't want to say I was like disappointed, but I felt like the themes like kind of missed the mark for me in a sense, because the film just didn't feel as compelling as his other films, because I feel like it didn't bring anything new to the table that he's done. Everything he's already done is kind of thrown onto the table with this. I wanted kind of to see, with this going to be his last film, I wanted to see something like what he could do for his final film, like something different. And I just feel like nothing really new is brought to the table with this.
I do think that
I fall a little flat with this, but now we know it's not his last film, but still going like with all the.
I get what you're saying there.
Yeah.
I think that he has, with some of the themes here, with growing up and whatnot, he's done it better in things like Spirited Away, but also it's like trying to compare, like, well, how did he do compared to when he did the greatest animated film of all time? So it's like, yes, it makes, there is a sense of it, of comparing it to his body of work. And in that respect, some things he's done better in others, but I think he still did a very strong job with it here. It's just when you make masterpiece after masterpiece, some masterpieces are going to be better than other masterpieces.
No, exactly. And that's the thing. I shouldn't be comparing his film to his other work. Like I should just looking at this film as its own thing.
Because it helps provide it provides a sense of context with comparison. It's just funny that in this specific context of providing context, it's within the context of masterpiece against masterpiece against masterpiece.
Because he has so many of them.
He is on a pedestal, and I think that he does a really great job here. I also think, though, that his approach, I can understand if you may not like it quite as much, while still being able to respect it, simply because he does come from there's more trippy visual elements to it. It's more metaphorical in a way. It's not, it doesn't spell things out easily. It doesn't give easy answers, or it doesn't represent the possibilities of how to do this stuff from an easy point of view. It is definitely a difficult film, I think, but I think that it is ultimately an incredibly rewarding film if you're able to get on the wavelength. And I know trippier, more esoteric stuff might be a little just harder to grab onto, and that's fine. I get it. Not everyone, loves David Lynch because he's a bit of an impenetrable filmmaker. I think there's some impenetrable bits to this, but I think that sometimes it's not about trying to get through. Sometimes it's just about letting that kind of wash over you. The film has its themes, it has its ideas, it has its thesis, its statement. But I think it's also a film that is, for lack of a better word at this moment, I think that it is very much about the vibes that it's giving off. It is about the emotion of it rather than what it's saying. It's about how it might make you feel versus how it might make you think. And if it's a little too trippy, that it doesn't hit those emotions, I get it. I think that it worked really well, though.
You know, I think it worked really well, and I do want to touch on what a lot of people care about when it comes to these Studio Ghibli films, and that's the animation, because it was just, excuse my language, it was fucking gorgeous. Like, there were so many moments my jaw was dropped. There were so many visual elements that weren't even just the backdrop or anything, like the Noble Pelican scene. That scene was just beautifully animated, even though it wasn't like this
Noble Pelican voiced by Willem Dafoe
in your version.
My version.
It's
gorgeous.
Yes, it's heartbreaking but beautiful, and it's like, holy shit! Like, how they could make it a silent film, and just what you're seeing on screen evokes so many emotions.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with that. Like, it's like, as usual, this is like a visually stunning film. I think what the issue is that it's so visually stunning. The score is so impactful and powerful that the messages that are trying to get across kind of are overwhelming in a sense, because not that you're throwing so much stuff at us, but I just feel like there's so many different like distractions. Like, it's so beautiful to look at. The score is so great, but the messages, I feel like, kind of got a little messy within the mix of it all.
And I can understand that, because like the biggest complaint I have about it is they're making this kid go through so much at once. He loses his mother. He has to leave this town he grew up in because his dad's taking a job at a factory. He finds out his dad is marrying his aunt. Not only is he marrying his aunt, he's already knocked up said aunt. So his sibling is going to be his cousin and his half sibling.
Yeah.
There's a lot going on there for like a 11-year-old boy.
Yeah, a lot of this is autobiographical, by the way, of Hayao Miyazaki. A lot of the emotion stuff and things that he had to deal with. His mother dying in the war, and then the father going out, and I think the actual sister as well. It's a lot of this stuff is autobiographical for him.
Okay.
Which makes it a little more interesting too, and I love this idea of when filmmakers or these artists are able to take something where it's like, oh yeah, it's a memoir, it's inspired by my life, and rather than just like adapting it into a biopic, they do this sort of endlessly creative, expressionistic, animated, yes, in this sort of way. It's striking, and I know we're kind of going a little long here. I want to touch on the voices here.
Yes, I was going to say we'll close on you.
The elephant in the room is, of course, Robert Pattinson as the voice of the Heron. Who is he, a bird, or is he just a little stinker in a bird costume? Kind of both.
Shock you.
It's his voice is unrecognized. That he put in the work for voice acting. He is giving it 150%. Everyone thought when they first had the trailer and they're announcing the voice actors for it, and they didn't say who was who, and the teaser comes out, and everyone hears they hear the Heron, and they're like, oh my god, that's definitely Willem Dafoe, right, or that's Mark Hamill. It's one of those two there, and it's Robert Pattinson. Nope. And it's crazy because he sounds, his voice with this way that he talks so much, it sounds so much like Willem Dafoe doing a Mark Hamill impression.
Yes, and I swear to you, that's exactly how the Heron sounds in the Japanese version.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's why it's spot on for the Japanese version, which is insane. But that's what I'll say about Robert Pattinson. Like, obviously, I haven't seen the dubbed over version, but if you guys have ever watched any of his body of work, he has a different accent and different voice in like every single film, and that's what I appreciate so much about him.
His voices, his accent work, and whatnot. It's like he approaches these voices like Tom Hardy does, but the difference is he's like, I'm going to give you a sound you've never heard of before, but you can also understand what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm.
It's amazing. His voice work is like actually worth like applauding. It's been a while since just a voice performance, I think, was as singularly good and effective for the kind of role they're given as Robert Pattinson is here. And it just shows he's one of the best actors working today. The rest of the voice cast are all like fine. They all do what they're supposed to do. But Robert Pattinson so clearly didn't just see this as, oh, I'm dubbing another movie. It's a paycheck. And it's worth applauding. It's gorgeous. It's a gorgeous movie. Deeply sentimental, deeply sad, beautiful to look at. I think it's going to linger for a long time. And yes, Miyazaki may say that he's now not retiring, but who knows? Who knows what'll happen to him? This could be his last. We don't know.
He could keel over tomorrow.
If it does end up being his last, I think that it's a gorgeous film to go out on.
And a perfect way to end it.
I talked a lot.
Perfect way to end his career because, like you said, and I didn't know this, so I can. Once hearing that, I think if he were to end it now, that it'd be a perfect way to end it. Like with this.
This would have. He's retired after each of his last couple movies.
Yeah, exactly. So who knows?
Because he hand paints a lot of this stuff himself. He's doing it by hand.
Mm-hmm. So, but We'll go around and start with our scores. Paige, what's your score?
I am walking away from The Boy and the Heron with a 3 out of 5. I mean, I think the film it's stunningly beautiful per usual. The score is phenomenal, and it is written extremely well. But I just feel like the message and the themes within the film are kind of a little scattered and feel a little messy with everything going on in a sense.
Fair enough. Jeff, what are you walking away rating the film?
So when the movie ended, I was like, I at first was like, really, that's how it's going to end? I was a little surprised by how it just kind of feels like an abrupt stop. But
yes,
the more I think about how it ends, and how it kind of goes about itself, the more it lingers with me in a way that I think is wildly successful. So to me, I don't think it's his best work. I don't even think it might be in his like top 3. I do think that in a career of masterpieces, this is a near masterwork. So for me, it's a 4.5 out of 5. I think that it is gorgeous. I think that it is sad. I think that it is very funny in a lot of different ways.
It is funny. I feel like we haven't mentioned
American
that. It is a pretty funny film.
The American voice cast or the English cast is all doing solid work, with Robert Pattinson being a distinct standout. One of the best scores of the year. And I think that the only possible contender, although I don't think it would, I wouldn't select it over, but the only contender I would say to the best animated film of the year outside of Across the Spider-Verse, although I'd put Across the Spider-Verse a little higher overall.
Yeah.
Yes. Completely agree on that.
For me, I know I said my biggest complaint is how much it felt like this kid had to go through all at once at such a young age. And that did hit for me. I guess I'll be honest, I'm giving it a 4, and I guess part of that reason might be the slight disappointment I had in not getting that American voice cast when I was under the impression that it was. Because I wanted to see Robert Pattinson for the bit. I also wanted to see this laundry list of just talent I know, from Florence Pugh to Gemma Chan, Christian Bale, Willem Dafoe, so on and so forth. So, but just all I I might bump it up after learning that it is semi-autobiographical. But overall, it's still a great film. It's like Jeff said, it's probably my number 2 behind Across the Spider-Verse as of right now.
For animated films.
Yes, for animated films. Yes, for animated films.
Yeah.
But it'll be interesting come awards time, which I know we'll probably be doing stuff around then. So I'm excited. The Boy and the Heron, it is out in theaters tonight for those people who want to go see it. So be sure to check that out. I know this was a longer review, but that's because you had 3 different voices and just kind of lower, medium, and high praise. So that's it, folks. Be sure to check out everything we're doing over here at Watt Real Entertainment, including Watt Gaming, which is run by our very own Taylor Cleek. You can go ahead and check out everything he's doing over on our Twitch, which is literally just twitch.tv/WattRealEnt. Like it up is up in the corner or down there on the X tag. So just twitch.tv/WattRealEnt. Go check that out. And Paige and I have another review, but that's actually not coming out today as I originally planned, because I was informed by my my reps that they want Cleveland to withhold their reviews. So that's great. It's great. It's great. But be sure to look out for Paige and I again soon, because we're going to be talking about Poor Things, and there's a ton of reviews I have coming up for you guys over the next couple weeks. I do have one dropping later tonight at 7 p.m., and that is for The Oath. It's a very small opening, and I'm going to go just talk to you about this film. It's just independent film, and I'm excited to share my thoughts with you. So until then, folks, signing off, I'm Matt. Thank you again to Jeff Alterman and Paige for Betty, and we will see you next time. Peace.